Hey, Pre-Calc students, Mr. Mitchell here. We're going to take a look at section 2.1, quadratic functions. A couple things with the notes. General form, vertex form and standard form are the same form. Find the vertex. It's h comma k when you look at the vertex form. You can find the vertex by using negative b over 2a. You can also find it using a calculator. We'll take a look at that as well. We'll find it using the calculator method. We can do it by hand too. The leading coefficient of a quadratic, that's what you want to look at to see whether the graph opens up or down. So when a is positive, the parabola opens up. When a is negative, the parabola will open down. We'll see that on our examples here. So sketch the following quadratic functions. Is the vertex a minimum or a maximum? So we need to think about some of our rules. These are all parabolas. If you look x squared, x squared, x squared. Knowing some of our transformation rules will help us with this. There's no number added or subtracted here on the end or on the inside. So we're not going to move the parabola. The parabola is going to go through 0, 0. So it's going to open up because it's a positive. What does this 2 do? The 2 is going to stretch it vertically. So the vertex is a min. And we should probably identify the vertex. The vertex is 0, 0. All right, we look at letter B. Again, knowing our transformation rules, we should move our parabola up 3 and put a point. That's where our vertex is going to be. So we can label the vertex now, because it's not going to move left or right at this point. So it's 0, 3 is our vertex. So it's a parabola. We got a 1/2 out front and a negative. What does the negative do? The negative is going to flip it down over. 1/2 is going to vertically compress this graph. Now this may be a little bit of an exaggeration. That's what it kind of looks like. Our vertex is a max. All right. So now we need to take a look at letter C. Now notice this is in general form. It is not in standard form. So we need to find our vertex. You can't just look at it and find it. So to do it by hand, you do x equals negative b over 2a. It's got to find our vertex first. So it's negative 8 over 2 times 2. So that's positive. You have a negative from the formula, negative from the equation. So it's 8 divided by 4, which is 2. So our vertex is 2 comma something. Well, how do you find the something? Plug it in here and calculate it. So if I do that, I'm going to have 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 6. So you got to sub the 2 in for the x. So what's that? 2 squared is 4, so that's 8. So we're going to get an 8 here. And then a minus 16 plus 8. I think that's negative 2, is it not? Double check. So I got 8. Negative 16 is negative 8. Negative 8 and 6 is negative 2. So my vertex is 2 comma negative 2. So I go over to 2 and down to 2. Now, knowing my leading coefficient rules, this is a 2 in the front. The parabola is still going to be open up because it's positive. It's going to be vertically stretched. It's going to be vertically stretched by a factor of 2. And so there's your parabolas. Rewrite in vertex form and identify the vertex. So this is one way of finding the vertex, but I did not put it in vertex form, so I will need to do that. We have a little formula that we use, but first we can't have a 2 out front. And this 7, we need to kind of move it away. We have to convert this. I'll go back up to the notes. We have to convert this form into this form. So it's called completing the square. So if you want to write this in your notes, we are going to complete the square. And you did this in Algebra 2, so we're going to practice it now. So First thing, move the 7 further away and just deal with this piece. So it's still f of x. We can't get rid of that. So I need to get rid of this 2, but I can't just throw it away. So I need to factor out a 2. So I factor out a 2. I'm going to leave space because I do have to write another number in here. And then I put the plus 7 over here a little further. I can't get rid of the 7. I can't get rid of the 2. I'm just moving things around. When you're converting from one form to another, it's just like changing your clothes. You're not a different person when you change into your band uniform or you put your PJs on. You're just wearing different clothes for different reasons. Same thing. We have different forms for different purposes. So now that we've factored out a 2, and we move the 7. You don't factor a 2 out of the 7. You move the 7. Now we need to do this little equation, or little formula. It's b over 2 squared. So I'm going to take 8 over 2, and I'm going to square that. So 8 over 2 is 4. Square that is 16. So what I need to do, I need to add 16 in here. Yep, I messed up. That's all right. It's not 16. I knew something didn't look right. It's not 8. I factored out. Sorry about that. I factored out the 2 and it's a 4 now. Sorry. That's my one mistake for the year. Never happens again. Huh. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Square that is 4. Sorry about that. So we're going to add 4 here. Okay? Now, I added 4, but what did I really add? I know I wrote 4. I'm not losing my mind completely. I wrote plus 4, but what did I really make? If I multiplied everything through by 2 again, I really made 8. I wrote a 4, but I made 8. So if I add 8, I have to be fair. I have to subtract 8. I have to add 8, then I'm going to subtract 8. If I would add 15, I'd have to subtract 15. I have to do the opposite. If I subtract 5, I have to add 5. So you have to do, basically, remember, we're just changing clothes here. We're just making it look different. We're changing forms. So f of x equals 2. Factor this. It factors into a perfect square. Factors into the same thing twice. So what does this factor into? It's x and x. What multiplies to 4? 4 and 1, 2 and 2. What adds to 4? 2. Signs are the same. They're both positive. And then what's negative 8 and 7? Negative 1. Last step. Write it in standard form. And then it says identify the vertex. So what's our vertex? Negative 2, comma negative 1 is our vertex. So this is in standard form. There's your vertex. All right. Let's try letter B. So if this is a 1, you don't have to do the factoring piece. Like this 2 is here, I had to factor. If there was just a positive 1 there, I don't have to do any factoring. Unfortunately, there's a negative there. So I have to, first of all, move the minus 8, and you can exaggerate. Get the minus 8 out of there. But I do need to factor out a negative 1. Not out of the 8. The minus 8 just moves. So now I need to do b over 2 squared. So b in this case is negative 6. Right here's b. So negative 3 squared becomes 9. So I'm going to write plus 9 in here. But what did I really make? I really made minus 9. So I need to add 9. You might say, you just wrote plus 9, Mr. Mitchell. How are you writing plus 9 again? What did I really make? I made a minus 9 because of this negative 1. So I have to write plus 9 there. So factor this, and you can do this step in your head. What does this factor into? It should factor into the same thing twice. So it's going to be squared. So it's going to factor into x minus 3 squared. Here's a little trick. Before you square the formula, that's what it factors into. See this? You squared this. Before you square it, that's what it's going to factor into. So you shouldn't spend time factoring. I did that step here because it's the first one. You shouldn't have to spend time factoring. And then that's a +1. So my vertex is 3, 1. Just changing clothes. Going from vertex form to standard form. Or I'm sorry, going from general form, going from general form into vertex or standard form. They are the same. Vertex form and standard form are the same thing. All right. So write an equation for the parabola whose vertex is 1, 2. So this is h and this is k. And then this is x and this is y. So f of x or y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. F of x is y, so you want to treat it, in this case, we want to use that as y, not f of x. So we know h, we know k, we know x, we know y. We do not know our leading coefficient a. That's what we have to solve for. So my y is -6, my x is 3, my h is 1, and my k is 2. So this will allow me to solve for a. This is going to be 2 squared. So I'm going to subtract the 2 over here. So I'm going to have -8 equals a times 4, right, because I squared it. So a is -2. So write the equation. F of x, you can still keep it as y. I like to prefer to write it as f of x then. A is -2. You leave x alone. You do need to write h and k in. So you don't, x is a variable. H and k are constants. They are the vertex. They're not going to change. All right. Now one more question. Determine the flight of the baseball. What is the maximum height? Here's where we're going to use our calculator. So we got to graph this. We could also find it using our vertex formula, x equals -b over 2a. We just need to find the x. So we can do that, and then substitute it in for y. But I also want to show you how to use your technology to do this. So I'm going to get my calculator. I need to know what my equation is. So I've already typed it in. I go to y equals -0.0032 x squared plus x plus 3. And again, I always double check -0.0032 x squared plus x plus 3. So as long as I have it graphed or typed in correctly, I should be good. So I graph it. Boom, I see this. Looks like a straight line, but we know it's a parabola. Well, here's the thing. The window is different. I need to change my window. I need to see further up, and I need to see further right. How much? I don't know. I mean, I do because we did the problem. I made the problem, but that's not far enough. I can't see far enough to the right at least. So I need to change that. So when you change, you want to go further to the right, that's your x max. You want to see further up, that's your y max. If you want to see further left, that's your x min. If you want to see further down, that's your y min. So my x max, let's just make it 60, and maybe I'll be able to see it now. Oh, it's still going up. I just need to keep changing it until I see it. The other thing you can do zoom fit. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it still doesn't. You still have to see further to the right or further up. So let's just make this 100. And our y max, let's just make it 80. So we're just trying to guess and check. I think I'm getting closer. You just might have to play with the window a little bit until you can find it. So I'm going to try it as 300, and I graph it. Boom, there it is. So I'm looking for this point. I'm looking for the vertex. To find any vertex, you go to second calc. We have a maximum vertex. You do have to know whether it's a max or a min. This is a maximum point. So go to the left of this point. How far to the left doesn't matter as long as you're to the left. And then go to the right, and then guess near the point. Doesn't matter exactly where you are. So our point is this. Our maximum height is now 81.125 feet. Our maximum height is 81.125 feet. So that's the maximum height. X is the distance from home plate if you really truly need that. So if you have any questions, let me know.